Hey viewers, QuirkyFan73 here. With Ash vs. Yugi coming out soon and Deathbattle 2025 coming to an end, let's talk about what I think is one of my least favorite to one of my favorites of Deathbattle Season 2025. Okay, now full disclosure, I don't think none of these episodes are bad. In fact, I think I will like all of them. I think for what it's given, they are doing a great job. Considering that they're going independent, I respect everybody that's doing it. I especially love those who are working on Deathbattle, especially when it comes to the fight. So I'm going to give my props to Jet Lewis Cruz, Torian, Eisenhawk, and of course, let's not forget the two heavy hitters, Devil Artemis and Moro. These two are the reasons why I think Deathbattle will still keep up going. Considering Devil Artemis has been working with Deathbattle for the past year, and Moro to an extent too. I think that, for helping an independent group of people like Deathbattle, I think that's respectable. So, here are my rankings for every Deathbattle that's coming out so far, from Kratos vs. Asura to Dante vs. Clive. So, coming at dead last as number 11 is, well, when you kind of think about it, it's kind of obvious, but Ghost Rider vs. Spawn. This right here is one of, if not one of my least favorites of the entire series. Don't get me wrong, I think for what it's worth, I think it's great. I think the analysis are great. I especially love the fight. I wouldn't say I love the fight considering it's a sprite fight, but I really like how out of all the season, the entire roster of this fight, of these matchups, this is the only sprite fight one, and I think I appreciate that. I think about time we step a little bit away from sprite fights and focus more on having these other people show off what they could do. Like, for example, Torian, Devil Artemis, and Moro. But when it really comes down to it, I just really feel numb about it. Like, I don't really feel the hype. I never understood the hype. And while I do like it, I don't really love it. And I feel like it's kind of one of the more weaker death battles of this year. Definitely not one of the worst, especially when you compare it to Toph versus Gaara, but definitely not bad. I mean, it's okay. Coming at number 10 is kind of a surprising one. It's Blade vs. Buffy. Now, full disclosure, I don't think this episode is bad. In fact, major props goes to Eisenhawk and everyone who works on this live-action death battle. I think they did a very great job. But why do I dislike it? Well, I mean, I don't really hate it. You gotta remember that this is pretty much a Season 10 situation where not really all of the death battles are bad, but there has to be weaker ones to the greater, better ones. So, when it comes down to this death battle, I really liked how, in terms, we really get to know a lot more about Buffy's lore. We get to learn more about her show, the comics, spin-offs. We really get to learn a lot much more, and we really get to see how Marvel pretty much underutilizes the character of Blade. Now look, I don't think Blade's that bad of a character, but yeah, I think we can agree he's a very underutilized character. And with the fight, I think the fight was really good. Choreography, especially the death track, is really, really catchy. And the characters and the storyline, it just makes it seem like it's just a short film. It just coincidentally has to be a death battle. But then when it comes to the cons of this fight, it mainly has to do with the guy who plays Blade, or the script he's given. Because he makes these callbacks to, or he makes these one-liners or callbacks to the first Blade movie, the one with Wesley Snipes. But, I mean, there's just something about him saying the dialogue compared to what Wesley Snipes said in the first Blade movie that just doesn't really click when he's fighting Buffy. But does this really kind of block me out of the fight a little bit, but not to an extent where I don't like it. So Blade vs. Buffy is definitely not as bad as Ghost Rider vs. Spawn, but definitely not one of my favorites. Number 9 comes as another surprise. Master Chief versus Doomslayer. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this death battle. You gotta remember that this was one of the episodes that was voted for a rematch on the Kickstarter, but I just really thought this was kind of unnecessary because we kind of knew who was going to be the winner anyway. Everyone knows who, and their mamas would know that Doomslayer would kick the absolute shit out of the Master Chief. Just looking at him can be like, yeah, there's no way Master Chief can beat him, even with the amount of lore he is given. This is the same dude that fought hell, fought gods, and how do you expect Master Chief to fight someone on this kind of level? Now, don't get me wrong, I think the fight's really great, and I especially love the animation choreography, and I especially love the death track. It really does capture that Doom and Halo vibe you get from this video game. Death Battle. But the overall, uneasiness that was just basically I felt when watching this. I'm like, what's the point on a death battle that we kind of know the clear victor? So yeah, definitely not one of my favorites, but I know some people really look forward to this mainly because they wanted to see Doom get his run back. But yeah. Number 8 is also kind of a surprise. Kratos versus Asura. Yeah, to be started, I'm not a huge fan of this death battle either. Sure, it was a semi-finalist in the Tournament of Champions, but I just don't really understand the whole hype people had with it. It was just mainly because I'm not a huge Asura or Kratos guy. I didn't really care, and when watching it, I still really didn't care. Don't get me wrong, I kind of knew who the victor was, even though it was really tying down to Death Battle, wanting Death Battle just saying that, Kratos was going to win. But I think I really do also like how, while it is animated beautifully and while Kratos won, I do also like that little what if they gave where Asura won. And I think that's kind of neat. I really wish that Death Battle really does show that more, so that way it could really just be a one-way choice. You can believe Asura won or Kratos won. I personally believe Asura won, given how much, from what I've seen from Asura's analysis and gameplay, that, yeah, he could beat the shit out of Kratos, but that's just me. And we go down to our number 7 spot. Our number 7 spot is also another surprise. Well, not really a number surprise since we're pretty much in the middle of it, but it's Ruby versus Maka. Yeah, to be honest, I honestly prefer a much better episode 200 since it was going to be Asher's Yugi, but then it got pushed back. But, for what it's worth, I think Ruby versus Maka is neat, even though that I'm not a really huge fan of the fight itself. Don't get me wrong, I think the analysis are really great considering that they're really diving into the world of Ruby and Soul Eater, and I appreciate that, Death Battle really respected the late creator of Ruby, rest in peace, and I think they really did a really good job. But the fight itself just kind of felt a little janky. Don't get me wrong, I think the voice performances are actually really great too. In fact, I think they got Ruby's voice actress to reprise her role, which, hey, they did the same for Dante Bosco. And, it was neat. And, but just the fight itself, the animation was very lanky, janky, kind of stiff and little, one shot thing, if you know what I'm saying. But that doesn't really take away the fact that, it was kind of special for anyone who knows how important Ruby vs. Maka is to some people, to some degree, but, yeah. Number 6. Number 6 is also a surprise. Dante versus Clive. I never really thought I'd be so interested in Dante versus Clive. And, for what it is and what it's really worth, I think Dante versus Clive was neat. Definitely not one of the matchups I was really looking forward to. Definitely not on one of my bingo card. But, hey, this was the Torian episode, and I think Torian did a really great job. I know a lot of people compare this to Kratos versus Asura, and I think I prefer this one much more. I think I just like how they really just go all out when it comes to this death battle, and major props has to go to Torian. I think he did a really great job. But, I mean, it was really nice to see them bring back Dante and bring in a new Final Fantasy character that isn't Cloud or Sephiroth. And, you know, I think it was really fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the time being, and I think the death track alone, too, is also really great. So yeah, I think it was good. But then we come to my top 5. These are the top 5 that I think are really, really fucking great. So number 5 is Tom versus Wile E. Coyote. This was the death battle everybody was talking about. And for what it's worth, I really love how in-depth they go into the craziness and tuniness that was of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. I especially love how they really just had to bring up stuff for Wile E. Coyote, from his Toon DNA to his Space Jam lore too. And I like Tom's analysis too. I especially like how they really paid respect to both Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, and just the fight itself is just a slapstick comedy, and you really expected it to be a tie much like Scooby-Doo versus Courage, but then when you realize that, oh shit, Tom died, it's like, nah, they're really not going to slip this up again. But yeah, it was really fun. It was fun. Gave me a good laugh. So yeah. And at number 4, it's Hulk versus Godzilla. Definitely one of my favorite death battles, and one death battle that I actually really do like. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and I'm sort of a so-so with the Hulk, but I'm just it was a very big deal for me because I'm a huge Godzilla fan. And when it came out, I think it was really great. I love how they really gave Hulk his own run back, considering that he was pretty much going to be the interpretation of Batman in Death Battle. But there is some issues I do have fault within. Of course, the animation is really great, and I especially love that. I'm pretty sure Double Artemis had a really fun time animating this. But there's also just some cons I kind of have with it myself too, and that's just mainly the fact that they explained that they were going to, for Godzilla's analysis, they were going to view his entire history. I know they said they were only mainly picking the most famous iterations, but they could have at least picked at least some rather than Godzilla in Hell. They could have just went with like the Marvel Comics or even the DC Universe's Godzilla. And I really do like how they really explain a lot more about singular points mathematically, and like the mathematical shit that was of Godzilla's singular point. And another nitpick that I kind of really did have, it was just mainly because they used the Marvel Rivals Hulk. And I do not like the Marvel Rivals Hulk design. That's just me. I just think his head is just way too small. But hey, at least he doesn't look like the Frankenstein monster. But, and I just thought it was kind of bullshit that they said that Bruce Banner was the winner, because now they technically gave Hulk another loss, and it was just basically Bruce Banner. And you know what? it always just makes me laugh that, Bruce Banner was the winner. And I just kind of also like how Death Battle was really pushing this, because this was a Death Battle I heard the Death Battle team were really wanting and really enjoyed. So, I think that was neat. And now we're at my top 3. What are my top 3 favorite Death Battles of 2025? Well, number 3 is coming as a surprise. Well, not a surprise. It's of course Simone the Baby versus Kyle Rayner. What do you expect? It's Gurren Lagann versus DC Comics. This is not only a death battle many people are very looking forward to, but a death battle that that it's going to be great. It's going to be incredible. Like, how could you not? It's Gurren Lagann coming into Death Battle. Gurren Lagann is one of the greatest animes ever. It's a sleeper hit. Peak cinema. Actual peak cinema. And the fight itself, man, it got me on the edge of my seat. Jet Lou's Cruz, you did a spectacular job capturing the spirit of DC and the raw masculinity that was of Gurren Lagann. The voice performance is really spectacular, and like just the fight itself just really kicks in. And I know it sucks that we did not get Will of the Drill, but Spiral of Emotions, Brandon Yates, you're pulling it off, Brandon Yates. Come on, you really need to get more well known in this YouTube world. It's also just so fascinating how they really put their heart and soul into this. And same thing goes for Hulk vs. Godzilla. They actually put a lot of effort into the character analysis and having us question who actually wins this fight. So it's really great, and anyone who stay true to Gurren Lagann would know how strong Simone is and how much we love Simone. So hey, the humble digger was able to win, and that was worth the wait. It was worth it. Number 2 is Shigaraki versus Mahito. This was originally going to be my number 1, and it doesn't go for it to say that I'm a huge My Hero Academia fan, but also because this is probably one of the best written death battles ever made. You can definitely tell that this was Liam's writing, and you know that Deathbattl knows how to make these characters sympathetic, especially Shigaraki. I think Shigaraki's analysis is honestly one of the best in Deathbattl history. The way how they frame it, the way how they actually put more emotion in both Wiz and Boomstick's voice performance, and how in the end, we feel bad for Shigaraki in the end, really shows how much of a tragic character Shigaraki is. And it's just very emotional. Morrow, you really did a great job here. I know you already did Bowser vs. Eggman, but here, I think this is 10 times better. I really love the voice performances, especially Tom Schalk as Shigaraki, who sounds perfectly like Eric Vale. Holy shit, I didn't even knew that, for a time, I thought that he was voiced by Eric Vale. I didn't know that he was voiced by Tom Schalk. But the fight itself was really neat. I especially love how, yes, this fight was just way too one-sided. We all knew who the fuck was gonna win this fight. It was Shigaraki all the way. And Skin Deep by Fairwolf Media, peak anime, song, and it's just so fun. It's just really fun how they really capture how much Mahito is such a douche and toys with his enemies, and how much power Shigaraki has as not only as the successor to All For One, but pretty much the new symbol of fear. And it was just fun. Now, what is my number 1? Well, it goes without saying there is actually one death battle that really deserves that spot. Deku versus Miles Morales. I can say without a doubt this is one of my favorite death battles ever. Why? Why do I even say that it is? Because a lot of people really don't like it. It is the death battle that I wanted. If you saw my top 10 most wanted death battle, you would know that Deku versus Rock Lee is my number 1, but it wasn't actually my number 1. My number 1 was actually Deku versus Miles, and when I saw it, I pretty much had the same reaction to what the Raptor had when he saw the trailer for Stitch vs. Rocket. I was fucking hyped, because if you stay true to My Hero Academia, you know that Deku is the GOAT. And I love Spider-Man too. I think it was really great. And I love how the analysis perfectly ties into how in our own unique ways, or as we can reach out to help everyone in need, we can all be a hero. I thought that was pretty poetic. And the fight itself is actually really colorful. I think this is hands down the greatest death battle animated by Moro. And that's saying something, because he did the Bowser vs. Eggman and Mahito vs. Shigaraki. But for this death battle, you can really tell that Moro put a lot of care, especially the scene where when Deku uses Fajin and takes Miles all the way to really old York City. That's like I just love how he was able to replicate how the animation that My Hero Academia does with Yutaka Nakamura. Like, holy shit, made me feel like he took inspiration from the master himself of Yutaka Nakamura. I love him. The death track, You Say Danger, most like a fan wanted death battle death track used, and pretty much being a diss track. It's fucking brilliant. And I love how in this death battle, they really respected both Miles and Deku. Were both Miles and Deku beforehand? Nah, not so much. I'm not a huge fan of the Miles Morales versus Static Shock, and I'm not a huge fan of Deku versus Asta. But I really like how here they really managed to redeem what they did wrong with these characters. They gave these characters each both respect and admiration, especially Deku. And I think this is like the predecessor. This is like the sequel to All Might versus Might Guy, where both All Might and Guy shared tons of admiration and respect. Here, Deku does the same thing when it comes to Miles. It's just really sweet, considering that Horikoshi is also a huge My Hero Academia, Spider-Man fan. Like, this is pretty much his dream matchup. Like, oh, come on. And it really does feel kind of sad that when Deku sees that Miles dies, and when he sees him overusing his venom, it kind of hurts to see him see Miles go, but it was fun. And I think that for me, it's always going to be at my number 2. Like, All Might versus Might Guy is still my number 1, but Deku versus Miles, that's my number 2. And I think that it's one of my favorites of Deathbattle Season 2025. I think the voice performances are incredible. The fight is really great. The animation's beautiful. The writing's still good. The music, and just the overall, like, video as a whole, it's totally a love letter for both Spider-Man and especially My Hero Academia. And yeah, that's pretty much my list of Death Battle Season 2025. With Ash vs. Yugi coming around, I am definitely hyped for it, and I cannot wait for what we have for 2026. And I really hope we really get a lot more interesting matchups and a lot more cooler, more funner matchups. So until then, this is QuirkyFan73 signing off, and have a good day, people.